Our next speaker is Peter Downey. He is the founder and director of Hydraulic Services Consultants Ltd. Peter spoke at our July 2015 regional meeting about ADNZ 3500. I think that those of you who heard him will agree that he's very entertaining as well as very informative presenter. This time he will cover stormwater design, but also may have time for more questions on ADNZ 3500. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers, guys. Good to see you again. I'm sorry to report that I'm still working for a living and I haven't been able to do any of that stuff that that gentleman talked about last time. And he's broken it and left it here, so it's in part. Right, look guys, I wanted to this time around, I was just going to talk about stormwater. We can talk about sanitary if you like, but this time I think I'll just go off and talk about stormwater and just see how, a little bit of a reminder, that's about all, okay? So you might know half of this stuff, but just pretend you're sitting at your desk and, I don't know, Louis sent you an email or Deepak Shah or somebody has got that 15th letter away there and they're going to ask you all these hard questions about stormwater. So let's just go through it and see, and I'll share with as much as I've been able to glean out of the documents over the last few years. So just want a bit of a catch up on stormwater calculations, and that's, from my point of view, we're talking drainage, we're talking gutters and downpipes. So we'll just do a bit of revision on that. That's generally E1, and we'll just go through AS1, because that would generally be, I think, your go-to document if you're sitting at your desk doing some stuff. So let's have a look and see what's in there. I kept looking at it for years thinking it was a load of crap, but it wasn't too bad at the end of the day when I had a bit of a look at it. It wasn't too bad. So let's have a look. So when we look at the building code and we think, well, I've got to build this building, how big have I got to build it, what have I got to do? And so what the standard set, or what the document says is that, look, this is what we want your building to achieve. So at some point in time, you've got to make sure that water doesn't run inside the building. So they introduced this concept called a 10% probability of occurring annually. Now that's important, and we'll get to it in a minute. Then they introduced this other concept and say, look, surface water resulting from an event having a 2% probability of occurring annually shall not enter buildings. All right, so we need to understand what those percentages are and where they come from and how they affect us when we get to the acceptable solution. We look at sort of, the index at BC is really, what it's saying is this, when you analyse it and look at it, it's saying that water that runs off a 10% AEP, now that's what we call an annual exceedance probability. We'll look at it in a minute, but look, sticking with the performance and functional requirements, it's saying basically, if water discharges into an eave gutters, you just deal with an ordinary storm. If water is going to run back inside the house, you have to deal with water from a more severe storm. All right? So when we look at it, when we talk about annual exceedance probability, a 10% storm is an everyday storm. A 2% storm is a more severe storm. What we're talking about is we're trying to measure a storm's severity. So when I ring somebody up and you say to them, well, how did it rain yesterday? What sort of storm was that coming through? Oh, pissed down yesterday, you wouldn't believe it. Absolutely poured down, you wouldn't believe it. We need something more definitive than that. And so what we used to say in the old days was that storm that came through yesterday, that was probably, you'd only expect to see a storm of that severity come along once every 100 years. And that would classify the severity of that storm. Or we might sit down and we might say, that storm that came along yesterday, goodness gracious, we get one of those every second week. All right? And what we're saying is it's not a measure of our storm's frequency, we're trying to measure the storm's severity. Okay? So that once we've worked out a really, really severe storm, we can turn around and build a gutter to cater for the amount of water that's going to run off that storm. And so we get those discussions couched in terms of what we call the average or the annual exceedance probability. If we leave it at 1 in 100, the public out there, our clients, think that storm happened yesterday and so it's not going to happen for another 100 years. If it happens next week, they get all disappointed. They think, what's happened to the world? It's all gone bad. We had a 1 in 100 year storm last week, and we had another 1 in 100 year storm yesterday. So they've changed it from the old talk that we used to know about, 1 in 10 years, 1 in 50 years. We now talk about a 2% probability of occurring annually, or a 10% occurring annually. A 2% is a 1 in 50 year storm, a 10% is a 1 in 10 year storm. All right? And so that's just a way of classifying the severity of the storm. Going back to the building code, it says, listen guys, if you're about to build a gutter and all that water is going to run off over the fascia and down the outside of the building, that's not the end of the world. That's not going to hurt the building itself, so we'll use a light storm for that, or an average garden variety storm. If that's going into an internal box gutter, well then we need to build that gutter bigger, because more water is going to dump on that area. You with me? So far? How we go? Not as interesting as succession planning and things like that, but not so bad. I meant to tell Murray, we don't groom anymore. Grooming's a bad word, isn't it? All right, so grooming used to be a word that we used, but it's fallen into a bad context these days. All right, so we've got our AEPs up there, 10% AEPs. And there's a number of terminologies that we use. So what's rainfall intensity, annual exceedance probability? I'm supposed to stay back there, but I just can't. I'm sorry, I just can't. So we look at there. When you look at it, we're going to talk about our storm duration here. If you think about a storm and its length, as we go out over a length, if you think about a 10-minute window in that storm, you're going to get a lot of rain. If I then said to you, well, what happened to that storm over, say, an hour? Well, it didn't rain really, really hard for an hour, did it? It rains hard for 10 minutes, then it quietens down a little bit, then it comes back in again, then it slows down again. So when you look at the amount of water deposited by a storm over, say, an hour, then the amount of water deposited is averaged out. Okay? We've got to look at what we think the worst part of that storm's going to be. We want to look at a little 10-minute window of that storm. Right? We don't want to worry about it over an hour. We want to say, let's crack this 10-minute period. If we can build gutters big enough for that period, well, we'll deal with everything else that comes along later on. So we have this storm duration. Right? I suppose if you talk about a millimetre, if we've got look at a square metre and turn it into a cubic metre, how many millimetres in a cubic in a metre? 1,000. 1,000 millimetres in a metre. So if I've got a square metre of surface area and I tip 1 millimetre of water onto it, how much water did I put on it? Right, one litre of water. Right, 1 millimetre across a square metre is 1 litre of water. So if I put a beaker at the bottom and drain it all in the beaker, I got my 1 litre. All right. So metric's really, really good to work that sort of stuff out sometimes. So a little bit of a comparison there. Let's have a look at it. Rainfall intensities. We need to understand some rainfall intensities to get into the acceptable solution. NIWA, remember in the back of the acceptable solution there's a nice map of New Zealand, isn't there? And when you look, have you ever looked at that map? I don't know whether you ever had, but apparently Hamilton's on the east coast somewhere or other. And you look at Invercargill, it's down there. So you don't know which contour it's on, you haven't got a clue. You don't know, it could be on the 84 contour or the 94, you don't know which one. If you go to NIWA, they've got a database that will give you the information you exactly want to know. So what we really need to get a head around is millimetres per hour. So the rainfall deposited over an hour, but we're focusing on this 10-minute period. And so when we go into the charts that are in E1, we've got to have the rainfall intensity for that particular area. All right? Rainfall intensity is how many millimetres per hour per square metre fall in that area. Now it's different all around the country. And so if I went to say, you go to somewhere on holidays or you go to wherever you go on holidays, that's in the tropics, say. And so when it rains there, there's no point having a gutter up there, because when it rains, no matter how big you build it, it's going to spill over somewhere else. You just can't build it big enough. Because their rainfall intensity is like 400 millimetres per hour per square metre. All right? When we come back into Auckland, we're around about 100 millimetres per hour. 100 millimetres per hour per square metre, all right, for an ordinary storm. When we deal with a more severe storm, we're around about 140 millimetres an hour for a 1 in 50 year storm. Okay, so we've got to understand where we're actually dealing with. When we look at this, this will, if we go into this website in the HERS database, we just punch in the address. All right, over here we've got to be quite specific and deal with this intensity duration here. When you punch it in, you'll go through it, it'll come up on the map, it'll give you that, all right, and you think, oh my God, I've lost interest in this already. I'm sure. This is less interesting than Murray's last one. It's all those numbers. Yeah. But look, the explanation is there, but when you look at it up top there, it says there's the average recurrence interval down the left-hand side. I'm not sure which one of these ones is your little doober here. Right, so there's your average recurrence interval in years. That's a 1 in 2-year storm, 1 in 10-year storm, 1 in 50-year storm. And over here, you've got your storm duration. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours, and goes right out. And you can see this one here, for a 1 in 10-year storm, 96 millimetres per hour for a 10-minute period, and as the storm goes out there, it gets less and less when you average it out over an hour. Right? So in Auckland, it's saying 96 millimetres per hour. You've got to add this little bit on here, that's the standard error. So add that onto that, you get about 103 millimetres per hour. So what we're saying, in Auckland, a standard 1 in 10-year storm, when we build our gutter, we need to go through this number. All right? You can ring up Lily and Lily will say, Peter, you have to come back to me with your diatribe and tell me all about it. All right? But he will say to you, you need to prove these gutters are big enough. How are you going to do that? You jump into here. All right? You get these millimetres per hour and you look at it, that's the 1 in 50 year there. So if I said what is the rainfall intensity for a 1 in 50 year storm in Auckland, it's 131 millimetres an hour plus 8.8, which gives you 140. All right? Now, if I go to Invercargill, that might only be 50 and 100. Not saying it doesn't rain down there, but it doesn't rain as hard. All right? It just rains all the time. All right? It rains slightly. All right? So it's just a little bit different, but you need that information to be able to use these charts. So when we go into a chart, for instance, that looks familiar to you. So that's good. Yeah. So you jump in there and think, I want to size a drain. This one tells you how to size a drain. You say, rightio, that looks all right. What's across the bottom? Modified catchment area and the gradient of the drain. So once I've got a modified catchment area, I can go up and say, right, for 600 square metres across here, all right, 120, I want to lay a pipe at 1 and 100. And so for 600 square metres, modified catchment, 150 millimetre drain. So that curve there, everything down here is a 150 mil pipe, everything in this area here is a 225 pipe, everything in here is a 100 pipe. But you've got to get the modified catchment area to start with. There's a little calculation that goes with that. In there, it says the modified catchment area, you do this. It's all written in the book, it's all written there, but it's written in, the I looks like a 1. Right, so you never work it out unless you actually sitting somewhere reading about it. So A is area being drained, and it's only the paving and the roof, and I is the intensity for a 10% AEP storm. 10% annual exceedance probability in Auckland is 110, more or less. Okay, so you take 0.01 times the area, say it's 350 square metres, multiplied 110, 385 square metres. Well, we go and look at that. 385 square metres across the bottom there, modified catchment area. You go up there, you're going to lay that pipe at 1 and 100, means it has to be a 150 mil pipe to drain that area. Okay? Now, you don't need to pay an engineer to do that, you just go straight into the chart, you photocopy that, send it to Louis, and he gives you a building consent next day. Just like that. Just like that. Just because he's that sort of bloke, you know. Big pardon? Don't you calculate that? The grass area? The gutter. No, this is just for the drainage. This is once you've come down the drain and you want to run that horizontal pipe under the ground. Right? That's charts for that one. There's another couple of things that you stumbled into, some sumps. Now apparently there's only 2 sort of sumps in the world. Alright? There's this one. And the old mate Bill in there used to say, Peter, you can't have a plastic sump, it's got to be concrete. Why is that, Bill? because that's what's in the acceptable solution. But Bill, they sell thousands and thousands of plastic sumps around New Zealand. It must be okay, surely to goodness. No, it's got to be concrete, right? All right, so you've got this one here, which is 375 diameter, and that one there, which is sort of, that's the one you see on the roadway, about 675 by 450. All right, you say, all right, how much water, or how much surface area can I drain into this pit? Well, how much can I drain into this pit? All right, well, there's a little formula that goes with it. It's written in there. The formula says, right, take the constant of 4,500, all right, take the constant of 4,500 and divide it by the 10% AEP. So 4,500 divided by 110 says you can drain 40 square metres into the grade of that pit. All right, that's the acceptable solution. You get that to Louis, he'll be happy anything. All right, that's for that smaller sump, 300 by 300 grade, I think it is. All right, then the bigger one, it's got a similar sort of thing. Remember, it's the acceptable solution, and the building code's intent is to enable you to be able to use this document without going to an engineer or without going to university to understand it big time, you know what I mean? It's meant for an everyday practitioner to be able to come up with something that will satisfy the authorities. So these numbers are constants. If we go back into here to get that constant, there's probably a bloody great big formula somewhere or other. But they've paid engineers to come up with that number. We take that number, divide it by the AEP, and it gives us the magical area of 363.63 square metres that I can drain into that sump, and Louis can't argue with me. All right? Because that's what the acceptable solution says. All right? So that's easy enough. So that's draining the sump. The next one we play with is downpipes. All right? So when you look at downpipes, and the acceptable solution, it's the easiest downpipe chart I've ever seen in any standard. It just says, if you want to put a 100mm downpipe up somewhere, well, the maximum amount of roof area you can put into it is 155. All right? Depending on the pitch of the roof, of course, but basically that's the guts of it. 150mm downpipe, 350 square metres. Right? Now, they're easy numbers to carry, and you don't need to worry about it. The minimum size downpipe, according to the acceptable solution, is 63mm. Right? That's the minimum size. Now, you can change that profile from round to rectangular, but when you've done that, you still have to drop a 50mm sphere down it. All right? Don't be mistaken to think that the minimum size downpipe in New Zealand is 50mm. It's not. It's 63mm. Sorry, it's a performance-based building code. This acceptable solution expects a minimum of 63mm downpipe. Or if you change the profile and want to make it rectangular, I still have to drop a 50mm sphere down the downpipe, and it has to come out the other end. Okay? I can't have a 50mm downpipe because it doesn't have the right cross-sectional area. All right? But I can flatten that out. So 63 does 60 square metres, 74 does 85, the rest are pretty good. It's not quite true, as I said, because if I went down to Invercargill, where my rainfall intensity is a lot lower, then I should be able to drain more roof to that downpipe. This is just a simple solution for use across the whole country, and it's a good solution, right? I can go into an engineering formula and punch it in there, and it'll get me similar numbers to what it does here. So it's a good everyday solution, and they're good easy numbers to remember, amongst all the other numbers that you guys have got to remember. So whilst you're picking the carpet, and whilst you're picking the roof colour and the texture of the tiles and everything else that goes with it, just remember a downpipe is 150 square metres, and you'll be laughing. Rightio. We've got a couple, I don't know how you do it, I truly don't. It takes me all my time to understand pipes. This one here might be a little bit familiar to you, all right? So when we want to size a gutter, all right? These are the charts, they're pretty easy charts to understand when you look at them. When you look up here, square meterage up this side, sorry, what's that side? Yes, plain square metres across here, across the bottom, big numbers. Big numbers scare everyone unless they've got a dollar sign in front of them, mate. So, big numbers across here, and up here, just some curves, nominating roof pitch through here. Minimum number here, 4,000 square millimetres. Square millimetres across the bottom. Alright, it's square millimetres is the cross-sectional area of the gutter. Right, so if we had a little story behind that, how do we use the two tables? Do we use them correctly? Sometimes we do. But what we've got to understand is they're based around millimetres per hour of 100. This one not so much, this one's important. This one here is for internal box gutters. That one's for eaves gutters. If you get that one wrong, doesn't matter so much. It's going to overflow outside the building. Get this one wrong, you're in trouble. All right? Bigger is always better for stormwater, right? Bigger is always better. All right, so when we get in there, we're just saying, right, say we've got an eaves gutter. You look in there and say, take 250 square metres of roof on plan. We go down there, 250 square metres on plan. The roof pitch is, I forgot to tell you, but let's say it's somewhere, let's say it's a 0 to 25 degree roof pitch. So we go across here until we strike that line, and we go down here and we say, right, the cross-sectional area, 20, 21. All right? Now, what it says there is that the intensity is 110. So we've got to multiply it by 110 over 100. Because we've got to make an adjustment. The table was for 100 millimetres an hour. So we've got to make it a little bit bigger. So we've got to multiply it. When you look at the text, first thing tomorrow, don't get the email straight away, go straight to this and try and get this knocked over the first thing in the morning. All right? And you'll see it says multiplied by 1.1. So 21 multiplied by 1.1, adjustment for our bigger rainfall intensity, says that you've got to have a gutter of 23,100 square millimetres. All right, so if I have 23,000 square millimetres and I want a gutter that's 200 wide, I have to have a gutter that is 115 millimetres deep. All right, so millimetre by millimetre equals square millimetres. And they're giving us square millimetres across the bottom here. Right, those big numbers, that's square millimetres. So I'm looking for 2 millimetres multiplied to give me that. So if I decide that that one there was 20,000, I want it 200 wide, it's going to be 100 deep. All right, so that's easy enough. For eaves gutters, most of your standard manufacturers will say to you, look, here's our quad gutter and it's got a cross-sectional area of 6,000 square millimetres. As soon as you know that, and they'll probably say that will drain 100 square metres of roof. So your standard eaves gutter are probably well supported by your manufacturers, all right, which is good to see. When you go to an internal gutter, you're probably going to have to apply a little bit more science to it, all right? So internal eaves gutters, let's say we've got the same 250 square metres of roof, right? We want to find out what the cross-sectional area is. 250 square metres of roof is what it is on plan. Whatever the pitch is, up to 25 degrees, go to this line, go down here, and it says there's 30, there's 40, we're around about, pitch it, there'll always be a discussion over the water cooler, but around about 37,000 square millimetres. All right. Then you decide how you're going to build that gutter. 37,000 square millimetres. That rainfall intensity for Auckland, we're in a 1 in 50 year storm now, eh? So we've got to build that. Remember that when I looked at the Rose Garden, we ended up with 140 millimetres an hour for our 1 in 50 year storm. So we've got to adjust the chart to accept that bigger number. So you read the number here, 37, 140 over 100, which is what the chart tells you to do, divide I by 100. So the intensity is 140, divide it by 100, and magically you get 1.4. Multiply that number by 1.4, and it tells you you need a gutter, which is 51,800 square millimetres. And you decide how wide you want to make it. If I want to make it 500 wide, it's going to be 180 deep or something like that. Okay? So if you just read the chart, you get the wrong size. You've got to adjust it for your rainfall intensity. You have to know what a rainfall intensity is. And the rainfall intensity is how many millimetres per hour per square metre are applicable to the address that you're working at, or the town that you're working in. Normally a town's rough enough. All right? Normally a town's rough enough. There's one other little complicating factor. All right? When we get there. All right? There's another part of the code. This one, E2. When you go to E2, I know you're working in E1 and it seems extremely logical that you'd stay in E1, wouldn't you? That would be great, right? But no, we've got to go to E2 because at E2 it gives you that picture, doesn't it? And if this was a sheet metal roof and we've got a gutter here, this one here says overall depth from E1 AS1. All right, so that's saying the minimum depth of a gutter in New Zealand, if you've got a sheet metal roof, is 70 mil at the high end, plus 20 millimetres freeboard. Now freeboard is your extra depth that you've got to put in at the top that allows for wind blowing down there and creating white caps, or you know, your sort of seasonal variances. Because remember, only guessing, there's water falling out of the sky. You know, on the best day, it's a good guess. And so it might rain 140 for the first 10 minutes, and it might rain 160 for the next 10 minutes. So there's a little bit of fat there somewhere. So we need to have that 20mm freeboard added on top. So what's the minimum size of a box gutter in New Zealand if I've got a sheet metal roof? If I want to use the acceptable solution, 90mm deep at the high end. And then it falls away from there at minimum grade of 1 in 100. Right? So by the time you get down to the sump, you're going to be at the bottom of the purlin. All right, so be aware, more or less, so be careful. So if we go back here, we got to that number there, and we decided that we were going to have a gutter that's 300 wide. So 51,800, which is what we read the chart, we multiplied by our rainfall intensity, we decided how wide we wanted to make that, 300 wide, because that's the minimum width of a box gutter. Then we have to have it 172.66mm deep, plus your 20mm freeboard. So that's complying with E1, AS1, and that's complying with E2, AS1, figure 52. 192 overall depth, the depth at the shallow end at the high point. You with me? How'd I go? All right? All those charts are there, somewhere or other, and all that information, you'd never put the two together. Why? One of the great stuff-ups of the building code is you put information for one that's absolutely critical for this acceptable solution and bury it in another acceptable solution. It's not supposed to be like that. If it's relative to this acceptable solution, that's where it should be. All right, but they send you running around the block. All right, so that's what's in the acceptable solution, and it's not too bad if you just. I'd like to think that it might be a bit easier tomorrow, I don't know. So I've got nothing else to tell you, other than the end is near, all right? So, but that's how you read the charts and tables in E1, you with me? They're pretty good charts. As I said, I'm a plumber by trade, that's been great for me, it's good and bad, but if it was engineering, I can't do it, all right? I'm just a plumber at the end of the day, all right? So these charts are meant to be able to say to any practitioner in the industry, from there down to there, that if you read this chart and do what it says, then I have to accept your building consent, all right, based on this, if you're using the acceptable solution, right? You don't have to use the acceptable solution, we all know that, but what's the easiest way to get a consent? Use the acceptable solution at the end of the day, all right? So that's my understanding of it. I'd love you to ask some questions because it would make me feel as though it's been a good exercise. Thank you.
With the surface water sumps, you have two options. Whenever I specify the big one, the drainer rings down and goes, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yep. Yeah, but they always do that. You know, they always do that.
So to be able to size another one, is there an easy way to be able to select one from the manufacturer if you know the size and kind of convert it? Can you say that allows that much surface area?
I have prorated that once for Louis. He wanted to know, and I was able to say, look, Louis, it takes 360 square metres for a 675 by 450. I've only got a 450 by 450, so I'm going to derate that, and he did accept that. But I think it was day 19 or something like that, so I think he was under pressure to get it out as well. But I couldn't see a problem with that approach personally. You know? Now, you know, there are plastic sumps around. You go down to Bunnings and you say, for instance, your threshold grates. You just want to put a little nylon threshold grate. It doesn't comply, but you're going to use a little nylon threshold grate, or around the edge of the patio. Kyle, around the edge of your patio, you're going to put a little Nylex grate. Now, in the corner, you put a little 300 by 300 sump, don't you? That deep, that wide, that wide. It doesn't comply, does it? It doesn't comply, don't forget, with the acceptable solution. Right? It drains water away and it does a great job, but from a consenting point of view, if you quote the acceptable solution, he's got nothing to tick the box with. All right, so they sell hundreds of thousands of them through New Zealand every year, so somebody must think they comply somewhere along the line, but from an acceptable solution point of view, it doesn't drop inside one of the two offerings that are within the documents. So you're going into a an alternate solution or something like that. So there's thousands of them they put out there every year, and they're tidy.
So what happens if you put a sump at the end of the drain?
Is it going to be a nice big concrete sump with a big cast iron grate?
No,
It's not. I didn't think it would be a grate. You want a nice stainless steel hill-proof grate, don't you? Yeah. Everybody wants one of those, but that's not one of these.
No.
And Louis wants to give you your consent, but he can't give it to you because it's not one of these. And so you have to convince him that that's going to do what this job does. And the acceptable solution doesn't work anymore because you want something a bit different. I don't blame you because that's just the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life. All right? But unfortunately, look, the characteristics of them are great at the top, a sump area at the bottom here to breed mosquitoes, and then a submerged outlet. So the water height in that sump is there, isn't it? And we've got a submerged outlet. So all the cigarette butts and the Marlboro packets and everything float up on the top, and then all the clean air water is supposed to go out of here. And so if you went back with an alternate solution, it needs to have those sorts of things in it. And then he would assess it, and he'd probably ask questions like, how much water's getting through the grate sort of thing. Engineers have that sort of information. They don't like giving it out because it takes them away from their passion. But they can work those things out. There's a blockage factor that goes with it and all sorts of other stuff. All right, but it's outside the acceptable solution. But they're a good thing, as I said. If you went out the islands and put one of those in, they'd laugh you out of town. Right? Because it's a mosquito breeder. Right? That's all it's going to do. You can do the same thing with just an ordinary sump, and you don't want water in the bottom of it. You want it to be a dry draining sump. But in New Zealand, we can't get past a sump for stuff. Right? And sometimes it comes back to the fact that that pipe at the outlet there is going down into a combined sewer, isn't it? If that goes to a combined sewer and we don't have this half siphon in here, what comes out of here? A less than desirable smell. So if you're standing on the corner at the Whitcoulls building in town waiting for the traffic lights to go, take a deep breath. Because that cesspit on the ground doesn't have the right sort of half siphon. And it's a combined sewer down the middle of our biggest city in town. Right? Now, they won't tell you that. They won't like that information getting out. All right, so that's about the guts of the acceptable solution. It works pretty well, and once you've just worked through it once, they're good, easy things to follow. The key is to just jump into that NIWA website and understand the rainfall intensity. We can look at those charts at the back, and they've got contours. And it says if the town falls on this contour, then your intensity for a 1 in 10 year storm is this much. But they didn't give us the 1 in 50 year storm. They only gave us the 1 in 10 year storm. If you go to the Australian standard, funnily enough, it's got all the ones for New Zealand in it. Okay? But that's a bit different. Right, guys, any more questions? Right?
Just what? Philosophical question.
Yes.
And I don't want to be here all night.
No.
But in the burbs,
Yes.
why do we collect stormwater?
In the suburbs?
Yeah. Why don't we have far more suburbs? Especially in Auckland or in volcanic areas where we can get rid of stormwater economically.
The answer to every question in construction begins with, it all depends. It all depends. It all depends on the quality of your ground. If you put too much stormwater into the ground, well then the whole suburb slides down the hill. And we've got evidence of that around the country. So think back to Dunedin and what was it down there where the whole hill just, it happens regularly around the country. We don't know, in many cases, the quality of the ground. So we need to be a little bit careful in what we're just going to dump into it, you know. Look, we've got a great subterranean groundwater system in Auckland. We just drill a hole and then everything dumps into it and it disappears into a big cave under the ground. I don't know whether we fully understand what we're doing to that environment down there by dumping all the road water, all the road runoff and all that stuff down there with minimal treatment. There is a great area under there that we can use, but not in every suburb. All right, so it all depends on where we are. It's not a good policy sometimes, it's a great policy other times. Yes, sir.
I've been through just a recent land use consent of 3 years. It was water care versus healthy waters versus development engineers, stormwater engineers, and exactly what you said about a combined sewer. And probably is 100 years old.
Yes.
The downpipe's been in the sewer for 108 years.
Yes.
They pay nearly 10 Gs a year in rates, don't have a stormwater drain.
Yeah, and that's a legacy issue, you know, like...
But it's a legacy from 1991, they said that exact words. It wasn't a legacy from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, so that 150 line, it ends up by my office in St. Luke's, so through 3 suburbs, 2.5 metre diameter, as still showing sewer.
Yeah.
So they don't show the purple lines on the GIS now, just red and grey.
And you talk about it and you go back about it, and you've got to think that, look, back before Auckland was amalgamated, we had Mount Roskill Shire, we had only Hunter Borough, we had Ellerslie Borough. They were different richnesses. You know, if only Hunter had no money. All right, Mount Roskill had no money. Ellerslie had heaps of money. So they can afford to build 2 lines down the backyard, one to take stormwater, one to build sewer. When you come in to say Mount Roskill, they only had enough money to build 1 sewer. All right, so they built 1 sewer, a little bit oversized to take all the stormwater and all the sanitary. Then when you've combined them all together, back in the late 80s, whenever it was, all of a sudden you've got a unified body that has to deal with all these legacy issues from all these borough councils. And they've done their very best with the money they've got available over the years to try and solve it. You've got to say, you know, if you stick with rates, then if you put the rates up 6%, what do the ratepayers do? You're evil, you're bad, you're out at the next election. All right? You need more money than 6% a year to fix a sewage system. All right? So you've got to take that entity out of there and park it over there and claim that you've got nothing to do with it. And then they can turn from a 6% and come in and say, we need to raise 50 million over the next 10 years and we're going to do that by charging you $10,000 a water metre. All right? They can do that when it's over there. They can't do that when it's part of council. So they need to park it over there. That's what Watercare, in my opinion, what Watercare and Metro Water originally, and now what Watercare are there for. So that they can actually get that money back. Because we'll all be sitting around here in 10 years' time saying, why haven't you separated out of the sewers? You're saying, well, you haven't given me the rates. Right? You haven't accepted a rate increase of any more than 5% over the last 10 years, so I've still got no money. So it's all about money at the end of the day.
Yeah, the problem is you're splitting it all off.
No problems, only challenges.
You split it off to separate groups.
Yep.
And Watercare becomes its own bureaucracy.
Yes.
And its own internal management structure.
Yep.
With a massive overhead that costs more than, your overhead costs more than what the rates are.
But the big wheel goes around. The big wheel goes around. Eventually they'll get bought out by the French water firm or something like that. You know, the big wheel goes around. I'm always on the bottom of the wheel when it goes around, it seems. But anyway, we don't seem to do too bad. Right, so there's a whole other stuff working away there. But look, by and large in Auckland, it's not bad, and they do work very hard. And I took the piss out of poor old Louis, but when you're in the out and have a chat to him, he's pretty good most times. I find when you actually get him aside and have a chat to him, all he wants to do is tick his box and move on. You give him the stuff that he wants, he can tap the ears, and off he goes. You know what I mean? He just wants to get the consent out almost as much as you do at the end of the day. Is that right? All right, guys, thank you very much. Great to see you again. Thank you very much. Oh, beauty. Something to go. Thank you very much.